guys, welcome back to Food Prep Guy. We are back in the kitchen with another canning tutorial. This is actually a post-canning tutorial, what to do with your jars after they come out of the canner. So the first thing to know is actually before they come out of the canner, once the canning process is done, you don't want to take them out immediately. Whether you're pressure canning with a digital canner like this, or whether you are water bath canning on the stovetop, if you're using a digital canner, you're just going to want to hit the cancel button, unplug your canner, and let the jars sit there for 30 minutes to an hour. Now, you don't want to let them necessarily sit for a super long time. I've heard people ask about, is it okay if I let the canner go throughout the night and like the canning process is done, the heat's not on, so it's safe to go to bed, but let the jars sit in there overnight. And that can potentially be anywhere from 8 to 10 hours, and you might be borderline risking something called flat sour, which we'll probably do another video on in the future. But 30 minutes to an hour in this digital pressure canner is what I typically do. And on a water bath canning on a stovetop, what I'll do is when the processing time is done, turn the heat off and let those jars sit there for 5 to 10 minutes before taking them out. And what this does is it avoids a rapid temperature change. Besides jar breakage, the other issue with a rapid temperature change is the fact that it can cause siphoning. Now, siphoning is a normal part of the canning process. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. It's not a completely avoidable process, and a lot of times it happens actually in during the processing, and it isn't because of something you did wrong after, but it is a point in time where siphoning can occur, which is right after the processing time is done and you're taking them out. That sudden temperature change can cause siphoning. So first step when you're done canning is let them sit in your canner for a little while. 5 to 10 minutes water bath, 30 minutes to an hour pressure can. Next step is you want to remove the rings from your jar. Now this is something that I know a lot of people don't do, and you know, that's fine, but I always take the rings off of my lids. That is what is technically recommended, and the reason why is because you can have a false seal. So especially if there is siphoning that occurs in your canning, especially with high sugary foods, because sugar is sticky, right? So if there's any siphoning that occurs, it can come out the lid, go in between the ring, and if you don't take that ring off, that stickiness can hold that lid down and make it seem sealed when it's actually not. Also, if you don't store the jars with the ring on, if your seal were to fail in the future and your ring is still on, it's the same thing. That ring would hold that lid down to where you wouldn't necessarily be able to identify a failed seal. So I always take the rings off. That would be step 2. Step 3 is wiping down the jars. I just have a damp rag here, and the reason why you want to wipe down your jars is because of that siphoning issue I was talking about earlier. Just in case you don't know, siphoning is just when the liquid, so for instance, this jar had siphoning. This was originally up to 1-inch headspace, which is right here, and you can see that there is liquid loss, and that's just what siphoning is. Siphoning is when the water comes out of the jar and seeps out beneath that seal. It just happens sometimes. Nothing's wrong with your food. As long as you don't have 50% liquid loss, you're good to go. But if that siphoning does occur, that liquid that comes out of your jars now is in your canner water, whether it's pressure or whether it's water bath. And that liquid is then your jars are not done canning yet, and they're sitting in that canner water, getting that greasy if it's meat, or sticky if it's a sugary, if you're doing like jams and jellies or relishes or something like that. And you don't want greasy or sticky or sweet smelling, especially. You don't want sweet smelling jars sitting on your shelf because ants and roaches and all that kind of thing. So once you are done wiping down your jars really well, the last thing you want to do is label and date them. Don't trust your memory. I made that mistake early on with actually dehydrated food, of all things. It was a what was it? I think it was lemon powder, and I thought it was white cheddar cheese powder, I think it was. And boy, was that a shock when I opened it and it was lemon powder. But You also want to date your jars for inventory and rotation purposes. You always want to use the oldest first and the newest last. So once you're done labeling and dating your jars, they're ready to go into storage. And if it's at all possible, go ahead and put your jars in the back of wherever you have your stuff stored so that the newest is in front. Okay guys, 4 things to do after your canner is done. I hope that was helpful. We'll see you next time.